do you like chickens? How about chicken pot pie? How about chicken nuggets?
Chicken train, running all day. Chicken train, running all day. Chicken train, running all day. Can't get on, can't get off. Chicken train, take the chickens away.
Hey everybody, Wyoming James checking in another day from the Urban Micro Farm. So peeking in on our turkey friends here. They seem to be doing okay. I'm going to get them a little bit of food here, and we're going to top off those waters, and then we're going to go out and visit our friends out there on the pasture, see how they're doing. Stay with us. All right, so we have made it out here to the pasture to see our little friends. Hopefully everybody's doing well. There's always just a tad bit of anxiety when you're checking on these birds after they've been not monitored for a little while. I apologize if I was watching the tractors, and so maybe all you saw was that. But these birds are looking good. Oh no, they're not looking good. I just see that. Doggone it. We got, I don't know what's going on here. We got another one down in there. Everybody looks like they're doing okay in these other two. So let's get these feeders put down and we will try to figure out what's going on with these birds. Stand by. Okay, so I'm not entirely sure what's happened. Now this bird was recent. He's still rigor mortis hasn't set in, and he's still fairly warm to the touch. So I don't know what happened. His crop's empty, but he looks a little bit pale, like maybe he's maybe he might have had a little bit of a heart attack. I don't know, but we got to figure out what's knocking these birds off. So we'll get that figured out hopefully soon before we lose too many more. But I got to go fill one water out of these, and then we will check back in with you guys shortly. Stand by. Okay, so I mentioned before that we were going to be doing something with these 3 buckets filled with water. What we're doing is, in an effort again to make our food last longer, to get more nutrition out of our food. In years past, we've experimented with fodder, with sprouting fodder. That is just such a hard thing, and the potential for mold is so high with that fodder that I'm afraid we were actually making our birds sick, and they weren't getting as much of a benefit as we had hoped out of that. So one of the other things I've researched is now fermenting feed. So that's what these 3 buckets are about. Now I filled these with water. I've let them set for a few days. Everything I've read tells me that because we're on city water, and this is chlorinated water, if you let them set, that chlorine will tend to dissipate out of the water. That's what I'm hoping for. So we're in the experimental stages, but we're going to figure out if it will work. So what I've got is I've got a quart and a half. So let me back up. Right now we're feeding 3 scoops or 9 quarts of feed, of scratch feed, to those birds on the pasture. What I want to do is I hope to cut that maybe in half ultimately, but if I can just cut it by 1/3, that would be awesome. So what I'm going to do is I've got about a quart and a half of the feed right now. I'm going to pour it in here, and then we have some whole wheat and some oats that we have from years past from growing fodder, from sprouting fodder. So I'm going to take a quart and a half out of each of these and dump into this bucket too. I'm going to do all 3 of them, and then hopefully we start getting fermented feed in about 2 to 3 days. That's the plan. So at the very least, we're going to get the water soaked into the feed. It's going to grow the feed. It's going to start to sprout these grains, and that'll be of some benefit. So it'll be a net gain no matter what. Now then, the idea here is to keep these water buckets over the top of your grains so that there's no chance for mold. So I've got these things about 4/5 of the way full, and we're just going to dump this in here. So there's 1.5 quarts of the feed. There's 1.5 quarts of oats. I'm sorry, that was 1.5 quarts of wheat. Now, got 1.5 quarts of oats. Okay, so one of the things that when you read about fermented feed, they talk about maybe putting some vinegar, some apple cider vinegar in there. I don't know if we're going to do that. We're going to try this just as plain and simple as we can get it. I'm going to try to keep this. So simple that we can ultimately do this out on the pasture. I don't want to have a bunch of bottles of vinegar and whatnot. So the idea here is this feed is going to soak and start to ferment. It'll start to bubble, and that's when you know those enzymes are breaking down that feed. Ultimately, what we want to do is have those birds ingest those enzymes. Those enzymes are going to act as probiotics. They're going to help them get more out of this feed, digest more of the feed, have less waste overall. So it should, fingers crossed, should end up being more beneficial to them. So I'm going to let this one set for 3 days. Tomorrow I will come out, do the same thing with this one. Next day I'll come out and do the same thing with this one. By then this one will be ready. We will drain the water off of it. I have some buckets with some holes in the bottom. We're going to drain the water off of it, and then we will we'll feed that. And then that way we'll forever have fermented feed to feed these birds. So it's an experiment. I appreciate you guys sticking with me on this. So let's stand by and see how well or not well this works. Okay, so project number next is turning these cattle panels into a turkey tractor. Now, my concept with the turkey tractor is that it's going to be a little taller than the chicken tractors are. I have an idea on how I'm going to do that, but I'm not 100% sure yet. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to unload these cattle panels, try to get a framework laid out so that we can get started on that turkey tractor. Okay, so we are back out here on the pasture with our friends, kind of just checking in on them before we head to the final night of the College National Finals Rodeo. I wanted to come out here, make sure they had enough water. It was hot today. Make sure that they were, see how they were doing on feed. Now, they should have a little bit left just to carry them through till sundown. But if they don't, I'm probably going to pour a little additional in there so we can just feed them until dark. Now, the idea is we want them on food for about 12 hours, 12 hours a day, and then no food for 12 hours. So hopefully that'll keep them from having heart problems and growing too big too fast and having leg problems. So I'm going to check on those feeders, and we will see how our friends are doing here.
Chicken train running all day, can't get on, can't get off.